Well, we want to say happy Thursday on this 27th day of March. And I want to say welcome to House Calls. And you're in tune with your man, Dr. Rory T. Edwards. And I first and foremost want to apologize for last week for not addressing this topic, but I really want you to know that one of the things that I really do understand that nothing happens without intention and purpose. And so for me repeating this topic that was supposed to be spoken about last week, it really came full circle for me because in the midst of me traveling, I really received more validation on why I need to talk about this topic today. So I want to thank everybody who is joining, those who are listening, those who will be listening at a later time on this platform or on YouTube. Or for some of you, I may send it to you via email, the YouTube link. But we want to talk about something today. And the topic may seem like off, but when I get to the point, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. And the topic for today is what makes the lion king of the jungle, right? So let me say that again because it seemed like I fumbled my words, but what makes the lion the king of the jungle? And for those people who really know me and understand, I'm always using the analogies of lions. I can sit around and watch lions operate for hours on YouTube and things of that nature. But what I'm really doing is trying to study the law of nature and kind of understand it, that have we as humans become so inundated with our own creation that we believe that we are much better than nature, that we're not created from nature, that nature's one thing and we are another thing and we're superior to them. But in reality, a lot of our processes come from nature because if we believe that we were created out of uh, prehistoric man, then we had to operate in that same perspective of, uh, you know, animalistic characteristics. How about that? But I want to read what I wrote and I want to share and ask you these questions, and I'm going to go into it and make some suggestions on where I'm going. Please stay with me. I do have a point. But once again, you're listening to House Calls with Dr. Rory T. Edwards on 3/27/2025. But the lion, majestic, powerful, and feared, is known as the king of the jungle. But what truly makes the lion the king? Is it his strength? Is it his roar? Or is it something deeper? Something embedded into his ability to lead, to retreat when necessary, and to conserve energy for the right moment to strike? That's the question I want to ask you all today. And as I'm trying to go there, I want to say there's a difference. When I look at humans, this is what I came up with in my assessment of humans. As humans, we often associate leadership with dominance, power of invulnerability, and the authority to never back down. But is that true kingship? That's the question I want to ask you. I want you to ponder on that question and I want you to ask yourself, is that true kingship? Do we know when to retreat and still be king? Or are we so in control by our emotions and pride that we refuse to step back, even when doing so may be in our best interests? That's what I think is the topic for today, is the questions for today. Are we so stubborn and stuck in our ways that when it may be in our best interests, do we not want to retreat? Do we believe that the machismo that's in us needs to stand up? Or if it's from a man's perspective, because we're talking about the Lion King, we know the lionesses have no problem with doing what they're supposed to do. But from the Lion King's perspective, is it that our pride and our ego gets in the way when we don't want to be wrong? We don't have all of the information, but we're so engaged in the conversation that our emotions take over and nobody can tell us something, even though it may not be your lane of expertise. Is that one of the things that is the biggest problem that we have, and the difference in what makes the lion the king of the jungle? Now, Why do I say that? I just came back this past weekend from Tampa, Florida, at an NFL Players Association 7v7 event, and we from the Georgia Training Alliance GTA team brought a group of young men. But what I did is usually when everybody else is screaming and hollering and telling the players to do this and do that, I'm in a mode where I'm observing. I'm observing the players. I'm observing the officials. I'm observing the opposing coaches. I'm observing our coaches. I'm observing the parents who are watching from both sides, and I'm trying to assess what is their understanding and value of their emotional egos that are sort of skewing how they respond to the calls, to the plays, to the caught balls, to the touchdowns. But what I really realize is that most of the energy comes from the coach. Now, I grew up in an era where my coach, anybody who knows in high school, my coach, you can hear him from about a mile away. And I look at that and people say, well, you have to scream at kids to get them to understand. And I totally disagree with that. I think that if you develop what's supposed to happen when you are developing children in sports, if you develop what's supposed to happen prior to getting there, you don't have to keep hollering instructions because they will know exactly what's expected of them and they will accomplish that. Now, when I hear coaches cursing young people out like there's somebody from the streets, I have a problem with the parents. I have a problem with the parents because if you allow your child to be treated like that, then your child's gonna think that's normal. And so you have to understand that um, those can cause problems. And then at the ends of the games or during the games, these players are feeding off of the coaches. Now, there were several communication altercations that happened because the coaches led that particular initiative in a negative way. And so the kids fed off of it. And so my theory and my assessment is that many kids are not built the same way we were built, and it has been um, defined by my research that generations have been watered down as far as their emotional stability. And some of these kids, their skin is so thin that you can't say anything to them without hurting them, their feelings, or losing them, their insight, their outside, their competitive nature because they're in their feelings. And so when you do this stuff, you kind of look at, is that what is really going on today? It's just a mere fact. We have to change the method of our coaching, or are we coaching in the same way that we were coached and we think it's effective? I think that when you coach, if you're going to take on coaching, you need to understand what motivates each player, what uh, puts them into a cocoon, and what's going to cause them to shut down the entire game for you to be effective. But for you to use abrasive language, negative statements about their play, about anything, I think shuts this generation of young people down. But let's talk about what makes the lion the king of the jungle and how we're going to concentrate on what true leadership is, emotional control, and the difference from being a ruler or just being loud. And I want to concentrate on three quick points, and then I'm going to move on to let people understand that this is what we're talking about today. Now, when I say what makes the lion the king of the jungle, let's look at two of the things that I spoke about. The first thing, the lion's power, his strength versus his strategy. Now, if we look at the lion and we look at other big cats that are on the plains, we know one thing: the lion isn't the fastest, the strongest, or biggest animal in the jungle. Yet it reigns as the king. Why? Because I'm gonna tell you why. Because of his strategy, his patience, and his ability to choose battles wisely. Now, you may watch things and you may see lions attack a buffalo, but then all of a sudden the buffalo herd comes and they retreat. So, see, if your ego or your emotions get in the way, you're going to think that for you to be successful, you need to stand up to that. Now, being the king of the jungle, He realizes that even though he's the king of the jungle, he just completed his task. He can leave and retreat without being labeled as weak. And that's what I think when we're talking about leadership and our ability to lead as leaders, we have to realize that you can choose your battles wisely and retreat and still come back and still be recognized as king. Do we as leaders recognize when to use force or when to use wisdom? Or do we mistaken aggression for leadership? Now, if you want to scream at people, and you want to do all this, is that aggression or is that leadership? Or is that what we say at the Rory T. Edwards group? You can't withdraw what you did not deposit. So are you trying to withdraw something and deposit into other people that you did not deposit into yourself? Think about that. Let's talk about another point. The greatest kings and leaders throughout history have understood timing, restraint, and the power of delegation. How well do we apply these lessons in our own lives as we're trying to take on roles and leadership roles? We all want to say we want to be the king, but what does it take to be the king? Is it about being the loudest person in the room? Because in the movie it said what? The loudest person in the room is the weakest person in the room. And so the reason why you're loud is because no one's paying attention to you, because your aura, your energy, your rhythm, and your vibration has not circulated the room to make people pay attention to you. Let's move on to point number two, your pride versus practicality, right? Knowing when to retreat. A lion does not chase every challenge. Sometimes it conserves energy following the right moment to strike. So let's ask this question to you as humans and leaders, or potential leaders, or perceived leaders. Do we know when to walk away from an argument, an opportunity, or a battle that doesn't serve us? Or are we so consumed by pride and ego that we fight unnecessary wars just to prove a point? You got to think about what's going on in your life now. What is in your cipher? What's going on? Do we fight unnecessary wars internally, externally, just to prove a point? What makes the lion the king of the jungle? And what makes you the leader of your own free world? These are questions that you need to ask, and these are why I'm doing this today. And let's go to the third point, which will be my last point. Legacy over noise. Are you a king or are you just loud? I just spoke about that. A lion's roar is powerful, but it doesn't roar all the time. It uses its voice with purpose, making an impact when necessary. Let's talk about what humans do. As humans, do we spend too much time talking and posturing, pontificating and posturing, instead of building and leading? And not just leading, but learning, right? Because what I told the boys this past weekend, I said, when we go on this field, it's not about getting upset if you lose, because we don't believe in losing here. Either we win or we learn, and we come back the next game much stronger. So, my third point on that topic would be kings do not need to prove they are kings. Are we securing our legacy or are we just making noise? Why I said kings don't have to prove they need to be kings, because I spoke about it earlier. When you walk in the room, people are going to know that you're a king. And it's because of the universe that we operate in and the universal purpose for which we are here for. Our aura will be connected to other auras. Our energy will align us with the energy of the purpose of why we're in the room. Our vibration will connect us with those same people. How do you go into an establishment? I want to talk about the vibration. How do you go into an establishment and ask someone to dance and you both are on the same rhythm? Because your vibration and your rhythm are connected. You never met this person. You like this person. You may like the way he or she looks, and you dance with them, and pretty soon you're in sync. Why is that? Because you're in sync because of the vibrations and the rhythm that has aligned you both to be within sync, right? So, why did I make these 3 points? These 3 points will guide a powerful conversation for you to think about, to have with yourself, with others, with your circle of influence, with people you work with, because you want to understand your leadership skills. But these conversations will actually give people the topics of what is true leadership, how do you command your emotional control, and what is the difference in being a ruler or just being loud. So many of us walk around because we want people to see us. Loud doesn't mean that it's your voice. Loud means in the things you wear, the big chains that you wear, all of the gold, the big cars that you have, all of the things, because you know in your deepest heart of hearts, people don't really see you. And the only way that you're going to be seen is that you have to do things that attract the eye. And that's the human eye. But the human eye doesn't assess you based on the fact that you're loud. The human eye either comes towards you or runs away from you. But this is what we're talking about today. What makes the lion the king of the jungle? Once we understand those traits, what makes you the leader of your own free world, in the world that you operate in, for whatever capacity that you operate in, either on your job, in your relationship, in your occupation, in your educational setting, in your parenting, in your grandparenting, in all of the aspects for which you live your life. What makes the people in your life respect you as a true leader? Is it because you're loud? Or is it because that your aura and your vibration and your rhythm and your energy is so powerful that it pulls people in towards you? This is what we're talking about. That's the difference between what makes the lion the king of the jungle and the loud person thinking he is the king of the block. Doesn't happen that way. All right. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope this message brings great value to how you operate or how you think or how you look at people who are in your actual circle of influence or you're trying to connect with. Remember what we say here at the Rory T. Edwards Group: you cannot withdraw what you did not deposit. So don't think that the louder you are, the more that will be deposited into your account. Because in reality, your life account is about the energy. And the louder you are, the more energy you use. So you're making withdrawals without making deposits. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who listened. And we had a great opportunity to do some things. And I made some great relationships and conversations. I had some great conversations with people um, at the point that I was in Tampa, and I just want to share a thought that was just shared with me, and definitely for you to be authentic in the way that you do things. Thank you, Dan, for that message, and thank you for listening. So until we talk again, I want everybody to stay well, stay focused on how you move through your purpose, and understand that there's a being who is guiding your steps. So please understand that you are not in this alone. And remember that leadership doesn't parallel exclusively with being loud. So until we talk again, it's your man, Dr. Rory T. Edwards, and I hope that you all have an amazing day and an amazing weekend going forward. And remember that you are very special. Do what you're doing to be special and stay focused on being special. And you will reap the benefits and the rewards. So until we talk again, stay well, bless up, Ashe.